Welcome to the Golf Improvement Podcast, episode 229.
Welcome to the podcast for golf lovers who are looking to shoot lower scores. Dedicated to professional club fitting, putting and short game improvement, and effective practice techniques to improve your golf game. This is the Golf Improvement Podcast with your host, Tony Wright.
Hello, this is Tony Wright from Game Improvement Golf in Oak Ridge, Tennessee with the Golf Improvement Podcast, dedicated to sharing useful information on professional club fitting, putting and short game improvement, and effective practice techniques, changing golfers' lives, one golfer at a time. About 3 weeks ago, it was time for me to purchase some new golf balls, and I bought 24 of the Snell Golf Prime 2.0 balls, a reasonably priced golf ball that I believe is a great match for my personal game. In the midst of doing that, I thought, why not try to connect with Dean Snell, who created the Snell Golf Ball line in 2015, and ask if he'd be interested in doing an interview with me. I was delighted that he said yes, and I think all of you listeners will love hearing many elements of his personal story to learn about some of the ins and outs of how present-day golf balls are designed, and learn about his sensible suggestions for how to choose a golf ball that can best help you to play your best. So thanks, Dean, and listeners, enjoy this wonderful interview with Dean Snell.
Tony Wright and Game Improvement Golf, changing golfers' lives, one golfer at a time.
Welcome to episode 229 of the Golf Improvement Podcast. Our guest today is Dean Snell, creator of the Snell Golf Ball line in 2015. Before Dean started Snell Golf, he played major roles in creating the original Pro V1 line and the Taylormade golf ball line. But he started Snell Golf in 2015 to, as he says, give back to consumers. So, Dean, thanks for doing this. It's going to be really interesting to hear what you share with everybody today.
No problem. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, as I noted, you played a huge role in a 25-year time frame to creating the original Pro V1 and the Taylormade golf balls. But, you know, having a PhD in engineering myself, I'd love to know what first got you to decide to be trained in plastics engineering with a minor in chemistry and math. And then did Taylormade make you an offer that you couldn't refuse, and that's why you went with them?
Well, I actually went to a lot of different schools on recruiting trips to play hockey. So I was a hockey player and not an engineer at all. And I wanted to play hockey. So I went to UMass Lowell, on a scholarship for hockey. And my first year was undeclared engineering. And at the time I was thinking maybe something computer oriented or some kind of work in that field. But in your freshman year in college in engineering, pretty much all the classes are the same. And then I went from lab to lab around the departments with the deans of the colleges to get a feel for the different types of engineering processes that they had. And I really thought the plastics engineering one was a very high accredited school for that degree. And it was a lot of design work, some drawings with toolings and things, and then a lot of making stuff and different processes with molding and stuff. So the strengths of materials classes are like mechanical engineering, except they were based on plastics instead of metals. So I found it pretty interesting when I went to the labs and saw some of the equipment and things made and the projects they did. So halfway through my freshman year, I entered into the plastics engineering program at Lowell.
And then you were at BF Goodrich, but then what got you to make the jump to Titleist?
Well, to be honest with you, I hated golf. It was
wow.
Yeah, my dad played, a very, very good player, plus 1 or 2 handicap. And I didn't like golf at all. Again, I played hockey and went from a sport where everybody's hollering at you and hitting you to a sport where, nothing moves and you can't say a word. So I thought it was kind of weird, but he was a good player. And I was working at BF Goodrich doing design work for the military. And I answered an ad for Titleist, which was in my hometown. So I was driving an hour each way to work for BF Goodrich. So I answered an ad for a quality engineer's job. And because of the R&D work I was doing for BF Goodrich Aerospace, I was fortunate enough they sent my resume over to R&D. And in the R&D process side to it, I interviewed, and my resume kind of got pushed aside, I think, a little bit over to human resources, and they found it and called me back and said, "Hey, we made a mistake and had lost it. Are you interested?"
Oh my God.
So I said, "Sure, I'm interested." No, I'm still interested. So I went back the next day for a second interview, and then had an offer the day after that. And I actually started working at Titleist. I didn't play golf. I didn't have a set of clubs, but I was an engineer and started to work on designing a process that they didn't have and wasn't available to anybody at that time.
And from what you say, it just sounds like a perfect match of different things you learned in school with what they needed, right?
Yeah, it was. It's materials related, performance related, a lot of molding. So in the golf ball world, there's a lot of compression molding, injection molding, retractable pin molding, processing with machinery and equipment to grind and buff and paint and things. So it was a variation of processes that were kind of got it tailored towards some of the education that I had had.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you had a great experience the 25 years you were with Titleist and with Taylormade, but what really started you to make the jump to create Snell and, as you say, give back to consumers?
Yeah. So the blessed part of my life has been being able to work with both of those companies. Titleist and Taylormade are two fantastic companies to work with. They had two levels of management styles that were completely different. So I was fortunate enough to be exposed to both of them and learn a little bit from both. And I was in San Diego with Taylormade, and my family was always back in Massachusetts. So I did a lot of travel back and forth. And at that time, I wanted to make sure that all my children were through college, had the chance to get their education with safety, factor of me being able to supply that to them. And they did. So the timing was kind of in a position where, okay, now I can kind of take a chance, because I didn't know what was going to happen or if it was going to work. So I said, okay, I'll take a chance now. So I moved back to Massachusetts and had a couple of friends and family. So all of the years I worked with Titleist and Taylormade, most of the time I spent was out on tour at the tour players' families, at their homes, working with players, the best players in the world, to design products for them. And the consumer would buy what the tour players would play, and that's kind of how it's been. So I thought, maybe if I go back and I can give back to the consumer and use some of the processes, the materials, the technology to design golf balls that fit the average golfers and players like that don't necessarily have to be used on tour. So the cost is the same, the performance is the same that we can make, but the price, I'll eliminate all of the tour players, the reps, the encore stuff, and create a direct-to-consumer business that I can take all those cost savings and pass them back to the consumer and help try to give back to the people that actually pay for the golf balls, that pay for the salary for these guys.
The guys that pay for the golf balls. What an interesting choice of words. And obviously you've been successful. I mean, to be able to hang in with this over the period of 10 years, and obviously there's some challenges right now, and I don't think we'll really talk about that, but things have worked out well.
Yeah, it started off with friends and family just kind of supporting. We're self-funded. When you start a business like that, you have no, there's nothing with banks that are going to give you money. So it was kind of I had a few friends that helped me start it up, and they all got paid back, and it was fun. It was a friend's family, started off with 1 or 2 people. in a small little office, and 5 moves later and 10 years later, we're in a 17,000 square foot building, and we have a pretty significant amount of employees that come in part-time, packing, shipping, and full-time that work in the office. And we were growing about 30 to 40% every year for the first 6 or 7 years or so, and we would take whatever supply we could get. If we could get more, we could sell more. So we were a little restricted on supply. And then, as you mentioned, some of the challenges that come up with COVID and post-COVID, have been true challenges that we're working through and continue to work through, and now making our move back up again in the direction that we were going before. So, my dad always taught me to not quit. And I had people that helped me from the beginning, so I didn't want to leave them. And we pushed through it, and things are starting to move in the right direction, and no complaints at all.
Yeah. Well, on your website, you mentioned that there's 4 key golf ball. I think very few people will get to hear of all this stuff other than read it. Key golf ball technologies that influence how golf balls are constructed, and that's core, mantle, cover, and dimples. Talk about these, and also about, because it's important in your balls, number of layers in the ball and how important they are in design and influence performance.
Yeah, so each layer in a golf ball, every time you can add a layer, you could add some level of performance. And what I've always recommended for people is the game that you play and how you play and where it is at this time for you, should really be dependent on what you're looking for. When I worked with the tour players a lot, you hit into the golf ball, and a golf ball is 1.680 inches in diameter, so a little over 1.5 inches. And those players would compress the ball about 1/3 with a driver, so well into the ball, about a little over 1/2 inch. So that's where the core is. So the core of the golf ball is used to create the weights. It's a blend. It's almost like making a cake, where it's a lot of ingredients that go in, and you put it all together, and then you bake it and you cure it, and you have a finished product. So we control the specific gravity of the core, which controls the final weight of the ball. It controls the compression, which has an impact on the speed and the spin rate. And obviously the sound, the feel part of it as well. So the core really works the most for the ball speed and the driver spin, which helps the driver distance. And then when you add mantle layers, those layers interact with each other on performance. So a 3-piece golf ball that has a core, a mantle, and a cover, the mantle works with the driver, it's the driver impact, and it's the mantle and the core that create the launch angle and the spin. Now, when you hit with irons, you have the cover, the mantle, and the core, which create the launch angle and spin and sound or feel. And then when you hit short wedges, it's the cover and the mantle work together to create the short game spin and control. So adding layers inside of that work for different irons and different sets throughout the club. And then the last thing you do on design, once you have the spin rate of the golf ball developed, you develop the dimple pattern. And the dimple patterns are very important with these lower spinning driver balls. Now they used to be deep dimples, now they're shallow. They used to have a lot of drag on them, but they're deep. Now they're low lift. I mean, a low drag now, high lift. So it helps keep the ball up in the air and keep that second stage flight going. We changed the depths and the edge angles of the dimples, the paint layers, the thicknesses. That all controls the trajectory and the flight of the ball. So design the ball for the performance you want from tee to green, then design the dimples to help control the flight, and then make them and sell them.
Now, I always remember a guy who was a really good player at our club, and he would have this drive pattern, which is obviously different than now, where that ball would have a low, boring flight and then just rise up in the air. I mean, I'm sure you remember that. What was the characteristic of that ball that was different than now?
That would be the big change. The biggest change that happened in golf for distance was back when players used to play a ball called Tour Ballata, and the Ballata golf balls were wound centers. So the tension of that thread if you took 1 inch and you stretch it 10 inches, that's the tension that was wound underneath those soft covers, which created a very fast, very hard, very high spin mantle layer. When you think about it, the core, the wound thread would be your mantle, and the cover would be that soft balata. So the soft balata cover and the hard mantle created a ton of spin. So a lot of players that would hit drivers that would create a lot of spin, those golf balls would have a tendency to act similar to the yard game that you can play with your kids with a trackball, where you throw the thing down real hard, push down on it, creates a lot of spin, and you see the ball rise. So that added spin when the ball would go up in the air would just lift the ball up in the air. So downrange, that spin would actually, when you have wind, it would actually lift it up. It almost like a plane, almost like lift it up in the air and take off on you. That was a function of high spin. Today's golf balls with drivers, we've been able to develop low spin drivers, which now allow that higher launch to be hit. We change the dimple patterns to keep it from ballooning, and now you end up having longer distances. And that was kind of one of the biggest changes in golf, going from a wound mantle layer to a solid mantle layer. Brought that spin rate down, allowed players to increase the launch angle, and subsequently add a lot of distance.
And then people like me used to cut those golf balls too. So, and I'm sure a lot of people did, right?
Oh yeah. Hey, then the wound balata golf balls had a liquid center inside of them. So it was a hollow rubber center with a needle. We would inject the liquid in it, which was basically a water and corn syrup, that would help control the weight and try to reduce some of that spin inside. And then those would have to be frozen and then wound with threads, because otherwise it collapsed when you wound them. So they were under very high tension in there. So when people would unwind those threads and they'd snap and fly around, inside they'd find this little rubber ball that had liquid inside of it. That was the liquid center Tour Balata golf balls at the time.
Yeah. Well, I've seen a number of times you've talked about, I guess your most important golf ball myths, and that is talking about golf ball impression and then making a choice based on swing speed. Share a little bit about why you have always thought these were things that people don't know enough about.
Well, the compression story to me has been one of those pet peeves that, when I started in golf, I started, back in 1990, and that was the Tour Balata days. And we used to sell golf balls that were called Tour Balata 90 and Tour Balata 100. They were written on the balls. They were written on the boxes. And those were supposedly compression ratings for them. So players were taught over time with hard two-piece golf balls, 100 compression ball you had to play when it was warm, and a 90 compression ball you had to play when it was cold, because the other one was too firm. And that's really kind of went on for a while, which really wasn't true to be the case. So, as a matter of fact, the wound Tour Balata golf balls that said 90 and 100 were more like 65 and 75.
Huh.
But that's not how they were marketed or sold, because at that time, if you had an 80 compression ball, that would be considered a ladies ball. So it was 100, 90, 80. What ended up happening was that I think Bridgestone was the first one to kind of do it. It might have been Top Flight. I'm not sure which one at the time, but they came out with a laddie. The noodle came out with the long and soft Max 5 noodle. Those golf balls took compressions down into the 60, 70, 80 range. So now no one wanted to put compression ratings on them because they were helping a lot of players, but they would be considered, quote, ladies golf balls, and that's not what they wanted to have happen. So you started to see the compression numbers come off of the golf balls and off of the packaging, and not really talked about a lot. So for me, compression is a designer's tool that we use. It's something I can use that as a predictive model to say, if my compression on this construction is 75 in the core, it'll give me this kind of spin rate, this kind of pitch and frequency for sound and feel. And if I raise it or lower it, it can add speed or lower speed, or add spin or lower spin. So I use that as a designer's tool. And the other side to it is, everybody said compression is feel. And feel to me is more sound. It's what you hear, not what you really feel. But it has a piece in the feel side to it, but it's not what it all feel is. And I use the example back in the day, there was a DT, Titleist DT, which was a wound Serlin golf ball. And then you had the Tour Bellata, and both of those golf balls would say 90 and hundreds on them. Both of those golf balls were about 65 or 70, and both of those golf balls had completely different sounds. So just because they said 70 compression on the measurement didn't mean they had the same sound and feel, but that's how they were used for design to help control the spin. So compression ratings have kind of gone away. Feel part of the game used to be extremely soft when I first started with the Bellata, and then it became acceptable when distance started to show increases. So as golf balls got longer from the Bellata because of the spin, the feel part of it kind of drifted, and no one really worried about it being real soft anymore. If I brought Tour Bellata golf balls back today with the consumers that we have today and people that have never seen them before, they would say, "Oh my God, this is so soft. I can't play this. It's going to go nowhere." Yeah, the perception is there to be soft is very slow is short, and soft is spin, and spin is short. So it really don't worry about compression. I think one of the biggest feel things that we hear today is with the putters, and the putters, the design that these guys have been able to do, they use all these different inserts. So if you want the ball to feel softer when you putt it or firmer when you putt it, you can play around with your putter in different models, and you can change the feel of the golf ball just by the insert you have in your putter without even changing your ball.
Now, how about the world of making the choice based on swing speed and your views on that?
Yeah, so for me, because golf balls today have all been designed for low spin with the drivers, which is the big change that happened going from the Titleist Professional to the Pro V1 type of ball, that spin rate dropped significant. So those distances all came close together. So most of the golf balls today are all going to go about the same distance off the tee. We have a limit we can do to the USGA for speed and distance, and we all play right to that limit. So when you see these distance test results that are out there, and people say, "Oh, that ball's 25 yards longer," it's not true. There could have been some influence to make it be that way on one or two shots, but most of them will all go about the same distance today, especially for the average golfer who hits a drive 220, 230 yards. These tour guys that hit these balls 400 yards today, that's not what average golfers play. It's not how they play. So picking something for me that chases a driver, and I remember a company used to do a fitting where you'd hit 3 balls and then 3 balls of one of theirs with a driver, and the tech would pick your shortest one and their longest one and say, "Look, you gained 7 yards. This is your ball," and that was your ball fitting. And I wanted to go through the screen. I'm like, "Hey, come on, these people play golf and you shoot 80 or 90. If you shoot 90 and you hit 14 drives, you have 76 other shots that you got to play, and you just pick the ball on one shot, and your deviations are so far away from being accurate on those." So my suggestion has always been take a 2-piece golf ball, a multi-layered golf ball, and or a tour type of golf ball. And everybody can do this. If you're a beginning golfer or a higher handicap golfer, start at 100 yards and hit 100-yard shots, 80 yards, 60, little putts, and do it with both golf balls or three different models from other companies, whatever you want to do to test them out, because that's where they're different. They're different from 100 yards and in. And if you get off the 3rd or 4th hole that you've tried to do this on and you can't tell any difference, then buy the cheapest one, because your game's not there yet. But if you can tell the difference, that's where they're going to be different for you, and that's where you're going to score. That's your scoring zone, and that's where you should actually choose the golf ball for your game. Now, if you're a better player, I recommend doing it from 150 to 160 yards, because now you get some mid-irons with some spin and wind, and do your test and then work your way down to the green as well. So driver ball fittings for me should start, from the green back to 100 yards or 150 yards, not with 3 shots with a driver.
Fabulous input. There you go. Now, so we're going to talk a little bit about your designs, but so when you've designed something, where do you actually test it and what do you do? And I'm pretty sure, because I listened to another podcast you did where I mean, you spend a bunch of time, different parts of the year, going overseas to ensure that things are the way you expect them to be. Talk a little bit about both of those areas.
Yeah, so when I was working with Taylormade, I was fortunate enough to be part of creating factories. So we were part of building and retrofitting a factory in Mississippi. We did one in Westminster, South Carolina. We did one in another one, a brand new facility in Carolina. And I've been fortunate to work on factories in China, in Taiwan, and Korea. So being part of those factories and teaching them things with Taylormade, was a nice experience to see what their capabilities are. Every time we'd start working with a new supplier, there was a lot of work to do. So the education process, the teaching them, and how not to cut corners. It's a working process, and it takes time with any new factory. So our design work, I have a 3-year rolling R&D process that we do, and I have a piece of paper that I keep on my desk, and it has all the characteristics of golf balls in performance. Long distance, spin, trajectory, feel, every one that you can have. And then I have 2 boxes on each one, which is the pros and the cons. And I read all the feedback and emails that I get from our customers, which are very good. And we get a lot of them, and I read those and I fill those boxes in. So when a box fills up, that's the voice of the customer that we're supplying to. And that's what I use for my next design. And once I have that idea that people are looking for what could be changed for it, I'll start the prototype process where we make small batches of golf balls. They're tested. We have a test facility that we have overseas, and we have a test facility that we use here in San Diego. It's an independent facility. And then we have our own in-house test facility that we have. So we test the golf balls in 3 places, make some adjustments, tweak it, have some new protos come in, back and forth. That iteration takes about a year to a year and a half to do before you get it finally right. Every time it's new materials, it could be new research, could be new paint systems, new applications, something that's helping to improve based on that box that I'm looking for from the feedback. So that takes about a year and a half. And then you go through a production phase where you take it from the lab up into a mini production, then into a full production for qualification. And that takes, 6 to 8 months. So it takes about 2 years or so to really get ready. And then once you have that, you have to tool it up if it's new dimples and new packaging, and then, get them made and get them in and then plan the launch. So we have what we're doing today, what we're working on in R&D today will be 3 years out. And what we're ready to launch coming up soon will be something that we've been working on for the past 2.5 years.
Wow. Amazing. I never would have realized it. Well, I should have thought about it being that long a time, but it takes time.
Yeah, it does. It takes time. And there's, as you know, being an engineer, there's patents that are out there, and there's things with material development that we're doing. And we have, I have some PhD chemists, that work for me as well, that help out with the material. We can start doing material design and use, flex modulus, tensile strength, elongations, things that have plastic material properties to them to do estimated performance in golf balls. So we'll run the material research first, then it comes into a pilot run, then it comes into a mini production run, and then a full production run. And when you start those up, each one of those phases has to be consistent and do what you did on your pilot run to your full production run.
Now, sort of what you've described is you've got 4 versions of balls that you have out there right now, the Get Some, the Prime 2.0, which, by the way, I play. I'll be playing it in about an hour again. The 3.0 and the 4.0. Talk a little bit about each of those classes of balls and how they fit for different golfers.
Yeah, so the Get Some golf ball for us is kind of our fun golf ball. It's been with us since we started. It's a very soft, low compression, 2-piece golf ball. So it's an ionomer Surlyn type of cover, very low spin. Low spin golf balls with Surlyn covers typically fly a little higher. So for the guy that's the beginner, or the guy that likes to hit the ball up or likes the bump and run shots, doesn't want a lot of spin, little bit easier to control. That's the Get Some golf ball. And we do a lot of charity stuff. We do a lot of, people have a lot of member guest outings and things that they want with logos on them. So we'll do those. They'll order those from us, and we'll send those to them. It's a lower cost golf ball that people play for fun. It's not the real serious golfer that's using them, but it's there as an option, and it's, obviously very affordable. And then 2 years ago, we launched our Prime 2.0, 3.0, and 4.0 series. And that was based on how we started our conversation about the layers in a golf ball. So what I did was I took the urethane cover technology that's been known for the short game control and spin, and I put that on all three models. So if you're a slower swing speed player, you're going to have the driver spin below, and you're going to add some spin around the green versus the Get Some kind of ball, or the Super Soft from Callaway, or the Velocity from Titleist. So it's a lower price point urethane golf ball that keeps the driver spin low, helps it with distance, but gives you a little bit more spin with the short game when you get closer to the green, and try to improve your game. That's recommended for more of the senior players. Maybe somebody that doesn't have the real fast swing speeds, someone that may hit a 7-iron, 100, 110, 120 yards or so. There's no need to buy 4 or 5-piece golf balls if you're not hitting the ball hard enough to use the 4 and 5 layers. So that I try to design products for the consumer that fits their price point, will give the performance that they're going to be able to see. And that's what that Prime 2.0 ball is for. Our Prime 3.0 ball is the middle of the pack, guys that hit 140, 145 to 160 or so, 7-irons. As swing speeds kind of fits the general mass thing. It's our number one selling golf ball by far. It fits the most people. It's a 3-layer golf ball, so there's that third mantle layer added in, like the Pro V1 kind of golf ball. And that fits the majority of people that play golf. And then our Prime 4.0, the 4th layer is added for speed. So the guys that hit the ball harder, really compress the ball, your lower handicap, faster ball speed players, that's in there to keep the speed up. When you lower the core compression to bring the spin down, you lose a little speed. So the faster guys will actually put that speed back into the ball with that 4th layer. And those are the guys that hit 7-irons, 170, 175. These the longer hitters that are out there. That ball is kind of designed more for them. So the performance goes up as the price goes up, and also goes up as how you as a player play the game. So I tried to fit price and performance into the category that you are as a player.
And one of the things I really like that you offer is you offer these different test packs, because everybody doesn't need to buy a dozen golf balls to just find out. So you can have a test pack, I think, of 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, and get a sense of what might work.
It is. One of the things I've always felt in testing is over my years in this business is we would give a sleeve of golf balls to somebody and ask them after 9 holes how they played or what they thought. And the guys that would say, oh, the ball's nice or it's good or whatever, typically had the ball left after 9 holes. And to the guy that said, geez, I didn't like it, it's because he sliced the first one in the woods, hit a second one in the water, and he didn't have it anymore. Yeah, so the true test of on course with 3 golf balls, to me, made it challenging for the player, to try to really do a good evaluation. So our tour test pack that we sell is the question we have most. Is it a 3.0 or 4.0? Which one should I play if I'm on that cusp of being, 165, 170 yard 7-iron? And again, those are just guides for the consumers. They're not cast in stone. Everybody has levels that they want for feel or something that is more important to them. So we created a tour test pack that has 2 sleeves of each ball in them. And now you can have a little more time to try them and maybe drop a couple balls from the fairway when you're out there and play it in, against the ball you play today. Go head to head with them to see if you like the difference in feel or spin, So and then we have a Snell Golf test pack, which is one sleeve of all of our models. And that's really for people that just, want to, can I really tell the difference? Are they really any different? do this little short game, 100-yard in test, and then see which one you like, and then, then come back. So it gives you an opportunity to do that requested testing that we were talking about earlier.
It's a fabulous idea, I think. I'm glad you figured that one out. So, the changes are coming, right? And it's so easy to be confused about what's really going to happen with the ball changes. And without talking for 3 hours about what you might think about everything, right? Because I'm sure you have a lot of opinions. What's on the horizon in terms of the USGA ball changes, and what's it mean for consumers?
So they've proposed a rollback to the golf ball under a new test criteria. So today we submit golf balls once a year. Every year, every ball has to be submitted and pass their conforming test to be on the conforming ball list. So, it's a process that you go through every single year. That test criteria, they're proposing to change that. That'll take away some of the distance at the faster speeds that they test at. So the balls today, under these new conditions, since we push the limit right out to what they are today that are legal, they're actually got to be moving that standard back. So they're going to have to be a little bit shorter. Now how that fits for all players, someone that might lose 10 or 15 yards at the faster speeds might not lose, 5 yards at the slower speeds, but the golf balls will have to be submitted and pass these due tests. So how to do that is the challenge that each manufacturer or each company has to do on their own. I think it's a mistake, honestly. I don't think it's needed. I've proposed many times, this is a tour and high collegiate faster players issue. Most of the guys I play with are moving up on tees, they're not moving back. So they say it's ruining golf courses and ruining some of the designs of the older courses, and I don't disagree with that they're becoming easier, but there's a way for the tour to control that. And a simple solution, obviously, is the tee height. If you make the tour players only be able to use a tee that's, at maybe a 3/4 of an inch or so, now they have to hit that face of the driver in the middle part or the lower part of the driver, which adds spin, which significantly makes the ball short. So that's it. So those guys have a tee. They could go no tee, or they can go up to this tee. Nothing else in the game has to change. They leave on Monday after their tournament, and we play the course, the way we want to. So the 3 factors that have really pushed this distance, the 4 factors that have pushed this distance to an issue, in my opinion, they're equal. There's 4 equal factors, and the golf ball spin rate being lower, which makes it go further, is 1. The drivers being longer with sweet spots the size of toaster ovens is 2. The players, their fitness and the way they hit the ball today. When I started in golf, the USGA had a maximum velocity, and tour ballada balls were right at that maximum velocity. So we're not making them any faster today. However, we've dropped the spin rate down on them significantly, which lets the players hit them higher, and that is added distance. So the players would hit at 160 mile an hour was the tour average when I started. And today you see on TV with all these systems, these guys are hitting at 180 miles an hour. Well, those golf balls aren't going any faster. The players are hitting them that much faster. So the drivers are longer, the players are stronger. And then the agronomy side to it is another part, which, sometimes I used to go out to Phoenix and watch the waste management, and those balls just roll forever. In Hawaii, they roll forever. Yeah. So if you watered the course the week they come in, or you lengthen the rough the week they come in for their tournaments, and then have them have a little more of a challenge for less roll or maybe a little bit more rough, not a lot, because they'll get hurt over time playing in that, but US Open is an extreme. But I think if you did that, that would solve it. Or if you control the tee height for those events, that's all they could use. Then we don't have to do anything. It's an expensive thing in the golf manufacturing to shorten a golf ball significantly. If you have to do it by dimples, you have to retool all your lines. It's millions of dollars for tooling if you're the bigger companies. And then if you want to change it by spin rate, if you add a lot of spin to the ball, it's going back to the tour balata type golf balls, so that'll make them shorter, but that means your hooks and slices are more exaggerated and tougher to control as well. And then you got to adjust all your clubs for a problem that's distance. They're changing the ball when there's other things that could be changed and nobody would have to change. A ball counts on every shot, and that's, to me, there's a better solution for it, and it is an easier way. And then we can all continue to play the game we play today without any problems.
Now, my 2.0 balls, will they change? Will they not if they do this?
It's going to be, so they're in the process now. The change is in two phases. So I think in 2028, I believe the tour has to go to this new standard. So any balls used on tour, which, think about this now, that's going to be a huge financial issue, because who's going to want to play a tour golf ball that they now know is made to be shorter when they can buy the other one that's now made to be longer. So the tour endorsement of playing a ball that Scotty Scheffler won with won't be there for those couple of years. So now everybody knows their golf balls are being rolled back and being shorter. The distance part of the game the chase is over, so they can't really promote that or talk about that. But for the regular golfers, I believe it's 2030. So I think we still have a few years left before this happens and put in place. But at that time, they're in the process now of developing the test procedure protocol and then working with us on how to have it start to be launched. That's in the works. That goes on behind the scenes. So, we will have time to make these adjustments. Will it be shorter and how much shorter? Every person will have a different experience on that. Some people might see some differences at faster speeds and very small differences at slower speeds. But our goal is going to try to keep the performance from the 100 yards and in where you score in golf. We're going to try to keep that there and then get the distance to whatever's allowable.
It's going to be interesting times, right?
Yeah. No need for it, but it is.
Well, gosh, this was a lot of fun to do with you. I appreciate you doing it. Share what has made you the happiest about your 10 years of leading Snell Golf, and any final words for golfers who want to play their best.
So I think being able to be back home and being with my family and having my family be part of the startup side to it. I'm getting towards the older side of a career, so that's been kind of fun. When I was younger, being out on tour and watching, Justin Rose. I worked with Tiger Woods for 2 weeks straight, and Mickelson and Dustin Johnson. I mean, all of them. So I was very, very fortunate over 25 years to work with the best players in the world, spend time at their homes with their families. And then when they would win as an R&D engineer, the validation of the product was in the win. It's not a marketing story to say now 5 yards longer, now spins 200 RPMs less. That's the marketing side. But the design and performance, where we would spend a year and a half on making something and then having these guys win with it, was kind of the satisfaction you get. For me now, seeing the consumers, in tying into Snell and Snell Golf, the relationships that I built with the customers that we have, I really enjoy it. If I'm in the office, I pack the golf balls myself with my whole staff. Every day we all come in, we all do it. We put the music on. I get up at 5:30 and I'll go in, I'll print the labels. And if I'm in the office and I can, and it's a new customer, I'll write a thank you note to them for the order, like a handwritten note, and then pack them with them, and then after lunchtime or 1 or 2, whenever the packing's done, everybody goes to their desks and do our own jobs. So I haven't had somebody that's left or quit. We built up, a nice little thing. So it's been fun, and it's enjoyable to see some of the feedback and some of the comments, even through the challenges that we've been facing for the last 4 or 5 years, to continue to drive and go forward. So that kind of thing is the personal satisfaction I have today. It was different back then when it was all tour related, and now it's consumer and feedback from the customers. And, that's the stuff I like the most.
It's obvious it's working, and it's obvious you're having fun. So again, thanks for doing this. I think there's so much interesting things you got to share. I put a link in the show notes to the Snell Golf site. I went there this morning. You got a lot of holiday offers that are going on, that are coming. But your Tech Talk videos are always very interesting. People can subscribe to that and learn different things from you. And Dean, just keep doing great things.
The Golf Improvement Podcast is sponsored by David Orr and the Flat Stick Academy, putting instruction without all of the bull. www.flatstickacademy.com.
Thanks to David Orr and the Flat Stick Academy for sponsoring my podcast and website in 2025. In the link I've provided, you'll see that David has created more than 385 flat stick videos, more than 7,000 hours of content, and 90 premium articles. Subscriber cost, $9.99 a month. Incredible value for the money, especially if you want to stop being swayed by much of the awful putting content you see from Dr. YouTube. See www.flatstickacademy.com for more details. I've also provided a link to where you can, if you're interested, sign up for the 6th Annual Flat Stick Conference that will be held at Pine Needles Lodge and Golf in Southern Pines, North Carolina on December 6 and 7. I'll be there, and I look forward to learning some new great information at the conference, as I always do. Dean, thanks for sharing so much fascinating information about golf ball design and how we can all make informed decisions on the golf balls we choose to play. All I can say is keep doing great things. I put a link in the show notes to the Snell Golf website, where you can not only learn more about Dean through his Tech Talk videos, but also where you can see great holiday offers to purchase the Snell golf balls that best fit your game at an affordable price. My shout-out today is a little different. When I started to produce this episode, I realized that there was some significant audio feedback in portions of the recording that I couldn't easily eliminate. I reached out to a good friend, Isabella Russell, with Music Radio Creative. They created the jingles I use in my podcasts. She suggested that I give a try to a new online tool developed called Adobe Enhanced Speech 2.0. I plugged in the podcast audio, and out came a version that sounded great. I've included links to Music Radio Creative and to Adobe Enhanced Speech in the show notes. AI tools can be amazing. If you click the link in the show notes for this episode, you can see all of my favorite previously published podcast content. I hope you'll subscribe to my YouTube channel and like the episodes that you listen to there. Thanks. Well, that's it for today. No set plan right now for the next episode, but I'll be working to find another great person to interview soon. But until then, happy Thanksgiving. Take care. God bless Ukraine, and God bless America.
Game Improvement Golf, changing golfers' lives, one golfer at a time. www.gameimprovementgolf.com